Hello, happy people. This is Mr. Wilcox. This will be the first video for Algebra 1. I'm going to post a video for each lesson. This is a great way for you to catch up if you were gone or if you just need clarification from class. So I'm just going to go through the slides like I would in class. At any time, feel free to pause the video to write stuff down. That'd probably be the best way to go. In class, I'll give you time. In the video, I'm just going to work through it. So we're going to work through order of operations today, which you probably remember as PEMDAS. I'm going to change that on you a little today. I'm going to change that P to a G. So instead of parentheses, we're going to start with grouping symbols. Now that we're in Algebra 1, we're going to see a lot more grouping symbols than just parentheses. So we're going to work our grouping symbols from the innermost grouping symbol out, following the rest of the order operations within those grouping symbols. So grouping symbols, we'll see our parentheses, which is what used to be. The brackets are like parentheses, only squared. Braces kind of look like the opposite looking faces. A division bar divides a numerator from a denominator. So we're going to do what's on top first, do what's on bottom, and then we're going to simplify. And absolute value bars, we have to take and simplify the inside and then take the absolute value of what's in those bars. Remember, the absolute value is the distance from 0. So absolute value bars basically make anything within them positive. So here's an example of working our way from the innermost grouping symbol out. Our innermost grouping symbol are the parentheses. So we're going to start with that. And when we do order of operation problems, we're going to rewrite the entire problem as we see it. So I'm going to keep the braces on the outside and the bar, and I'm going to do what's inside the parenthesis, which is 2 minus 3, which is going to get me a -1. I still have a +1, -5, and a brace. All right, so we did our parentheses, so that's gone. I mean, I do have parentheses there for the -1, but that's just when you add a negative number, that's how you write it. So I still can't get rid of my brace yet, but I can get rid of my bracket by taking 6 plus a -1, which is 5, then adding 1 again, which is 6, and we still have a -5. And now we have all what's in the brace, so we have 2 plus 6, which is 8, and 8 minus 5 is 3. All right. So we worked our way from the innermost grouping symbol, which is our parentheses, then the bracket, then our brace. All right, so after we work with grouping symbols, the next part of our order of operations, our E, is exponents. So if there are no grouping symbols, we're going to work with our exponents and do those first. So if we see any powers, we have to reduce them. So in our example, 2 minus 4 squared, 4 squared is a power, so we're going to reduce that. So 4 squared means to take 4 times 4. So 4 times 4 is 16, so we're going to do that first before we subtract. And 20 minus 16 is 4. So our simplified expression here is 4. So now that we've worked with our grouping symbols from innermost out, we've found all our powers and we've simplified them. The next thing we're going to do is multiply and divide from left to right. So we always go in order as how we read words. We always go from left to right when multiplying, dividing, and then we do addition and subtraction. So we're going to start with this example. So in this example, there are 2 operations, multiplying and dividing, and we're going to do so from left to right. So the first part is 9 times 4. So 9 times 4 is 36. And now we can do our second operation of division, and 36 divided by 6 is 6. Now, this is one of the few times in Algebra 1 we're actually going to use the division symbol. Most times in Algebra 1, we're going to use that division bar, which is why I put it amongst the grouping symbols you should recognize. All right, so we've used our grouping symbols. We've simplified our exponents. We've multiplied and we divided from left to right. The last part of our order of operations is adding and subtracting from left to right. So that should be the last step in our order of operations, is to use our addition and subtraction. So if we look at our example here, 5 plus 4 minus 3, following our rule, we're going to go from left to right. So 5 plus 4 is 9, and 9 minus 3 is 6. Right, so instead of remembering it as PEMDAS, you could remember it as GEMMA or GEMDAS. If you still remember PEMDAS, just understand that P could stand for parentheses and could stand for brackets, braces, absolute value bar, anything, just as long as you remember the order of operations. So here it is, our order of operations actually written out: grouping symbols, exponents, multiply, divide, and subtract. So there's where you get your GEMMA from. If you remember PEMDAS, you remember PEMDAS. Just know that multiply and divide happen in the same step and subtract happen in the same step, and that parentheses can actually stand in for any grouping symbol. So we're going to start with grouping symbols, work our way innermost out, following these rules when in them. Then we're going to do our exponents, and then we're going to multiply and divide from left to right, and add and subtract from left to right. So all I have left for you right now is a couple examples. So our first example is 3 times 6 minus 4. So are there any grouping symbols? Nope. So we're good there. That step is done. Are there any exponents or powers? There are no powers. So now we can multiply and divide from left to right. So it looks like there is some multiplication. So 3 times 6 is 18. So we've taken care of our multiplication. So now we can add and subtract from left to right. So we can get 18 minus 4 is 4. So notice I showed each step. I didn't do crazy carets and things like this is 18, this is 4. No, keep your work lined up, rewrite the whole problem, and make sure that you are keeping it lined up and looking nice so that you know what you did. A lot of students have tried to do the weird caret things or do steps in weird spots. Just show all your work. I promise you it's easier, and I promise you will get it right more often. All right, next example is 16 plus 48 divided by 4 squared. So are there any grouping symbols? No, there are not. So we don't have to do any grouping symbols. Are there any exponents? Yes, we have a 4 squared. So we're going to do that first. So we're going to rewrite the entire problem. So 16 plus 48 divided by, and then 4 squared means to take 4 times 4, which is 16. All right, so we've done our grouping symbols, exponents. Now we multiply and divide. It looks like we have a 48 divided by 16. So our 16 stays out front here, plus, but we take 48 divided by 16. 48 divided by 16 is 3. Right, now that we've multiplied and divided from left to right, we can add and subtract from left to right, which is 16 plus 3, so we get 19. So the correct answer here is 19. Notice I showed all my steps. I rewrote the problem each time. I didn't cut anything off. I didn't use weird carets or weird arrows. I rewrote the problem and showed each step. All right, next example. I have 1/5 of 21 plus 2 squared. So I do have grouping symbols. So within the grouping symbols, I have 21 plus 2 squared. So should I add first or do the 2 squared? Well, according to our operations, I do 2 squared. So within my grouping symbol, I'm going to follow the order of operations. So 21 plus, and 2 squared is 2 times 2 or 4. Still have parentheses, so I got to take care of those first. So I have 1/5 of, and 21 plus 4 is 25. So now I can check for any other exponents. Nope, no exponents. So now I can multiply or divide. So I have 1/5 times 25, and 1/5 of 25 is 5. All right, one more example and then we're done. We have 2 plus the quantity of 3 times quantity 4 minus quantity 16 minus 15 and plus 1. So we're going to start with our innermost grouping symbol, which is the parentheses. So again, I'm going to rewrite every part of the problem and only change what's inside the parentheses. So I have 2 plus, I have a bracket, 3, brace, 4 minus, and 16 minus 5 is, or 15, sorry, 16 minus 15 is 1. So I only did what's inside the parenthesis. All right. So I did the parentheses. My next biggest grouping symbol is the brace. So I'm going to keep my 2 out front. Still write my bracket 3. And inside my brace I have 4 minus 1. So 4 minus 1 is 3. All right, so I only rewrote the braces to show multiplication. You could have changed that to a multiplication dot if you wanted to. So now inside our brackets, we're going to follow the order of operations. So keep my 2 plus out front. And my brackets, do I do 3 times 3 first or 3 plus 1? Well, multiplication and division come before addition. So I'm going to multiply my 3 times 3, which is 9. And so I'm going to get 2 plus 10. And 2 plus 10 is 12. Now I ran out of room, but normally I would have written it down below showing. So I showed each step and I did each group one at a time. So I went with parentheses, then braces, then brackets, showing each step along the way. All right, so make sure you're always rewriting the problem and showing all your work. So that was the last example of your homework. So worksheet, which you can find on Brightspace, attached to where you turn your assignments in normally. This one is called Order of Operations Worksheet. So I hope you have a great day, Cardinals, and you make it count.